إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما ثم أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد يا عباد الله قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم أفلا يتدبرون القرآن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His noble book, and do they not reflect over the Quran? Do they not reflect over the Quran? This is a question that is tremendous and is powerful. This is a question that within by itself it is tremendously powerful. Do we reflect over the Quran? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He goes on to say in this ayah that can be found in Surah Muhammad, Allah Ta'ala, He says, أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا, or do the hearts have over them their seal? Do they not reflect over the Quran, or are their hearts sealed up? This is tremendous. The magnitude of this is tremendous, because within this there is an indication that not reflecting over the Quran is a sign that your heart is sealed, that your heart is locked up, that your heart it is closed. It is closed, so thus benefit will not enter into it. Wa'iyadu billah. So let us reflect over Allah Ta'ala's book. Let us reflect over the ayat. Let us ponder and contemplate their meaning. Let us reflect over the reality of what Allah Ta'ala He mentions inside of His book. قال الله جل وعلا في كتابه الكريم. Allah Ta'ala He says in His noble book, after بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says after the Basmala, has there come unto you the narration of the overwhelming event? Has there come to you the narration of the overwhelming event? Ya ibadallah, we have to contemplate and reflect over this reality, because without doubt, undoubtedly, this is an event that will overwhelm all of us. This is an event that we will all be present for. This is an event that will have a tremendous impact upon us. Has there come to us the narration of the overwhelming event? Because if there has, if we know about it, then this should be seen inside of our actions. If we know about it, then we should be altered. If we know about it, then we should be preparing for it. Allah Azza wa Jal, He asks this tremendous question. Has there come to you the narration of the overwhelming event? Al-Ghāshiyah min asma'i yawm al-qiyamah. It is from the names of the day of judgment. Al-Ghāshiyah, it is from the names of the day of judgment. Kama qala Ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma. Now the day of judgment, it has many names. Each name gives to you a description of what is going to take place therein. Each name gives you a description, an indication of what is going to take place therein. This is a day that will be overwhelming. We will be overwhelmed. Why? لِأَنَّهَا تَغْشَى النَّاسَ. Because this is a day that the human beings as a whole, وَتَعُمُّهُمْ, this is a day that the human beings as a whole will be overwhelmed. Knowing such a reality, it behooves us that we prepare for it and we take it seriously. Knowing such a reality, knowing that the time in which we have been allotted to prepare for the day of judgment, that it is now here in this dunya. So this should be a motivation for us to prepare for it. Allah Azza wa Jal goes on to tell us, وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَاشِعَةٌ, that there will be some faces on that day that will be khashi'ah. Imam Ibn Kathir, he mentions inside of his Tafseer, dhalila. There will be faces on that day that will be humiliated. There will be faces on the overwhelming day that will be humiliated. They will be humiliated. كما قاله قتادة وغيره. وقال ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما تخشع, that they will be scared. Their faces will be humiliated, yes. They will be scared. They will be fearful. They will be scared to death. وَلَا يَنْفَعُهَا عَمَلُهَا. They will be scared that the actions in which they have put forward, how they spent their time in this world, it will have no effect. It will have no bearing on their situation. It will not benefit them in the least. Allah Azza wa Jal, in case we haven't gotten it yet, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, عَامِلَةٌ نَاصِبَةٌ, that they will be those who have toiled. They worked much. They did a lot here in this world. They did a lot here in this world, but from things that will not benefit them. They worked hard in this world for things that will not benefit them. So therefore they will come forward on the day of judgment. Now sleeba, they will be tired. They'll be worn out. But of things that will ultimately have led to their destruction. The ulama, they mention that what is meant and what is intended by عاملة ناصبة قد عملت عملا كثيرا, they have done a lot of action, ونصبت فيها, and they become weary and worn out, ووصلت يوم القيامة نارا حامية, but on the day of judgment they will be entered into the blazing fire. They work hard in this world. They exceeded in this world in what? In kufr. As Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he said that what is intended here is an-Nasara, the Christians. Those who work hard, those who toil, the monks, they devote themselves, their lives, so on and so forth, to what? To disbelief, to kufr, to shirk, to polytheism. So all of the toil, all of the hours they spent praying to a false deity, all of the hours they spent praying to the saints and these false deities and so on and so forth, tiring themselves out to come on the day of judgment just to go to hell. But it's not just them. It's not just those who are the Christians. But then you have others from the ulama like Al-Iqrimah wa Siddiq, and they mention عَامِلَةً فِي الدُّنْيَا بِالْمَعَاصِي, that they worked hard in this world in sin and transgression. They left no rock of sin unturned, but they indulged in it. There wasn't a single vice except they indulged in it. They worked hard and they worked hard and they worked hard in their sin and transgression. So therefore now they come on the day of judgment and they are weary. They have nothing awaiting them except for the fire. They have nothing awaiting them except for the chains inside of the hellfire. They have nothing awaiting them except for the punishment. So Allah Ta'ala, He says, in case we didn't get it yet, Allah Ta'ala, He says, تَصْلَى نَارًا حَامِيَةً, and thus they will enter into the blazing fire. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who benefit, to make us of those who they are escaped from the fire. They escape from the fire on this overwhelming day. Those who meet Allah on this overwhelming day, and Allah is pleased with them, and Allah enters them into His Jannah, that Allah ta'ala forgives them when they meet Him. We ask Allah ta'ala to save us from those who will come on that day worn out and tired just to enter into the fire. هذا أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولجميع المسلمين فاستغفروا فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. يا عباد الله, has there come to us the narration of the overwhelming event, the Day of Judgment? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's telling us about those who will fail, those who will come on that day and they will be sad, those who misappropriated their life, those who they didn't spend their life believing correctly in Allah, they didn't spend their life working righteous good deeds, preparing to meet Allah. Those who spent their life in disbelief, those who spent their life in sin and transgression, those who spent their life in play and amusement, they will come on the Day of Judgment and their faces will be humiliated. They would have worked a lot in this dunya but tired, worn out, no benefits, it will not avail them. And thus they will enter into the blazing fire. Allah Ta'ala, He says, تَصْلَى نَارًا حَامِيَةً, they will enter into the blazing fire. حَارَةٌ شَدِيدَةٌ Shadidatul harb, they will enter into that which is extremely hot. Its heat is beyond our comprehension. And in case we don't get it, we don't understand what are the stakes, we don't understand how it is important that we are firm upon the correct belief, we are firm upon being obedient unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how we have to take these things serious, and we should never let the dunya come between us and between obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should never let the dunya be the distraction, be the hindrance between us and our devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just in case, because we all have our excuses, we all have our shortcomings, but just food for thought, just food for thought. How come Fajr does not look like Jumu'ah? Allah Ta'ala, He says that they will enter into the blazing fire. Just in case we didn't get it, we didn't understand the stakes. Those who will come and their faces will be humiliated. Those who would have worked a lot, toiled, but yet they will come worn out, weary, just to enter into the fire. Allah Ta'ala, He tells us, تُسْقَى مِنْ عَيْنٍ آنِيَةٍ, and they will be given to drink from a spring that is boiling, from a boiling spring. This is what they will have to drink. Imam Ibn Kathir, he mentions, he says, قَدْ انْتَهَى حَرَّهَا وَغَلَيَانُهَا. He says that it would have reached its epitome. حَرُّهَا, its heat, the heat of this water, the heat of this boiling spring, it would have reached the epitome of what is hot, hot beyond your imagination. It would have reached the epitome and boiled to the full extent that anything could boil. That's what they'll have to drink. That's what they'll have to drink. The ulama, they mention a drink that within itself, it will completely obliterate, it will destroy, it will melt, it will disintegrate their insides, just for it to be put back together, grown back, so that the process could be repeated. It will destroy their insides, and then it will be regrown, put back together. This is what they will be given. Just in case we don't understand the magnitude and the gravity of this day, Allah Ta'ala, He says, لَيْسَ لَهُمْ طَعَامٌ إِلَّا مِنْ ضَرِيعٍ. They will not have any food to eat except from ضَرِيعٍ. ضَرِيعٍ, The ulama, they explain that it is an extremely poisonous, thorny vegetation. That's what they have to eat. That of which its sprout looks like the heads of shayateen, the heads of devils. This is what they will have to dine upon. Those who decided they wanted to live their life in disbelief, to live their life in sin and transgression, to live their life not believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to live their life upon polytheism. This will be what they will have to eat in the hellfire. Just in case we don't really understand to the extent an individual is thirsty, a thirst of which we can't imagine and we never want to know. And they'll be given to drink that which will completely destroy and melt their insides. But they're still thirsty. Thirst is never quenched. They're hungry, but they will be given to eat from this thorny, poisonous plant that again will wreak havoc upon their insides. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع, but it will not avail them, it will not bring to them nourishment, nor will it satisfy their hunger. So even with that, they're still hungry. Do you understand that those who enter into the fire, they are punished from every way that you can possibly comprehend and from ways in which you can never imagine? They're perpetually thirsty, perpetually hungry, in addition to being punished in the blazing fire from ways in which you cannot even comprehend. These are the stakes. These are the stakes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He goes on after telling us about these ones, these losers. Allah ta'ala goes on to tell us about the winners. Allah ta'ala, He says, وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ, and then there will be other faces on that day that will be extremely happy. There will be other faces on that day that will be happy. Their situation won't be that situation. Their situation won't be this situation. Their reality will be different. Why? Because when they were in the world, their condition was different. When they were in the world, their condition was not one of transgression, but it was one of obedience. It was not one of disobedience, but it was one of obedience. It was not one of disbelief, but it was one of belief. It was not one of polytheism, but it was one of monotheism. They were those who believed, those who were upon the way of the prophets and the messengers, those who did right. For them on that day, their faces, it will be bright. For them on that day, then they will be happy. But inshallah ta'ala, we'll come to reflect upon that in the next khutbah bi'ithnillahi ta'ala. فنسأل الله تعالى أن يوفقني وإياكم لما يحبه ويرضاه وأن يجعلنا ممن إذا أعطي شكر وضبطولي صبر وإذا أذنب استغفر فإن هؤلاء ثلاث عنوان السعادة. هذا فأقيموا الصلاة.